Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Santos on Sports, along with my good friend, Mr. Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. So much to talk about tonight in the middle of the playoffs, the Bruins, the Celtics, all kinds of stuff going on. A game every night. One night it's the Celtics, one night it's the Bruins, next night it's the Celtics. Driving my wife crazy, but I'm having a great time watching all that. Chris, how are you?
Paul, I'm a lot better than last week, man. I'm here. I'm live. I'm in person. I don't need to be on a phone. I'm seeing you. I'm happy. I'm excited too. It's, you see the commercials on TV. There's nothing like playoff hockey. I hear that. It gets me excited. Been watching a lot of the games. Same thing with basketball. What's going on out west? Obviously, what's happening here in the east. So, it's been a great couple of weeks and something going on different every night.
Well, I put that question up there because the Celtics are rolling along, got through those first two rounds like everybody predicted, and things are going very well. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this team is deep. Does this team have a weakness? Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you what that weakness is. I don't think a lot of people are going to like it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Their weakness is that Jason Tatum wants to be Mr. Hero. That's their weakness. He wants to be Mr. Hero. That's just the truth of the matter. I mean, I know it doesn't go well with a lot of Celtics fans, but the bottom line is, he's purportedly the best player, although I got to tell you, Jaylen Brown has certainly given him a run for his money in the playoffs as far as best Celtic player is concerned, but we can debate that another time. But for some reason, he just has to take over the game in the fourth quarter. He takes twice as many shots as everybody else. He's got to go to the ISO ball thing. And that would be one thing if he actually hit the shots, but he misses them every time. He takes that step back three. Now look, he's an excellent player. He's a great player. I like the player. I just think he's a little overrated. Now, that doesn't mean he's a bum, okay? You got to keep these two thoughts in our head. He's a great player. He's a great player. He's not a bum. He's a great player, but a little bit overrated and a little bit worried. They mentioned that MVP the other day in the post game, and he's like, well, the MVP. That still irritates him that he didn't get the MVP. And the Celtics did everything they could to hand deliver the MVP to him because they let him stay in games. They were blowing people out and everything else to try to inflate his numbers and all that, and he didn't get the MVP. Who cares about the MVP? Who cares? Jokic got the MVP, certainly deserved it. Jokic's a better player than him anyway. And, by the way, I'll close it with this, right? The MVP, the way I look at it, right? Most valuable player, right? Most valuable player. If you take that player off the team, what do you have left? Well, I would argue that if you take Tatum off the Celtics would probably be where they are right now. These two bum teams that they beat, they still would have beat them, okay? But if you take, like, say, Jokic off of his team, you take Doncic off his team, they probably don't even make the playoffs. Jimmy Butler off of their team, forget it. Miami's out. You take Giannis off of his team, forget it, right? Jalen Brunson, you take him off the Knicks, forget it, right? So there are other players that you can make a case for MVP. Forget about the MVP. The Celtics, if they win, and I hope they do. It sounds like I'm rooting against them. No, I'm not. I'm rooting for them. But they're going to win if they win. It's because they're deep, because they move the ball around, because they don't play iso ball. They get Pritchard off the bench. They got, Al Horford had a great game the other day. White went off another night. Brown went off on a different day. Just keep moving the ball around. Stop this iso ball thing. Stop this hero thing. Forget about this. You're not LeBron. You're not Michael Jordan. Just get over it and play team basketball, and you'll win.
Okay, so let me start with, if I take Tatum and I put him on Miami with no Jimmy Butler, okay, and I get rid of Tatum, what does Miami do?
If he was on Miami and
if Tatum was on Miami, no Jimmy Butler, and now Tatum's gone, what's going to happen? Miami's going to do nothing.
I don't think they would. Right.
He's going to do nothing. I mean, Miami's not going to do anything. See, what I'm looking at is the Celtics have depth. They have team players. They have two guys. The third guy is injured. That is a big difference right there. Because right now, it's like last year with Robert Williams. Injured, hurt, in, out, never could get anything going on the way they wanted it. They need Porzingis. They need him for a 7-game series, 6 games. They need him, Eastern Conference Final, and of course, if they can win it, all the way to the NBA championship. He must be healthy if they have any shot to win anything. They cannot do it with this group. Horford was exposed by Mobley in this series, and he was exposed badly. And Mobley took it to him from Cleveland, and he was faster and stronger and averaged almost 30 points. Mobley, never mind if I'm seeing Jokic or some of these other guys on these other teams. It's not going to happen unless Porzingis is in that game. Simple as that. Now, I can agree with what you're saying, but I can also agree that this comes down to coaching, Paul. This is Missoula. This is somebody that needs to step up, do a better job of how to run this system around these two guys, which is Tatum and Brown. And then when Porzingis is back, how they run it even more to get those three guys in there and develop that game. ISO ball and all that, that's not run by Jason Tatum. He's not telling the team when they come out, hey, listen, I get the ball, get out of the way. This is Missoula telling them, hey, look, this is what we're going to do here on this thing. Because you even see it when they're in the huddle, and they've gone in with the huddle with ESPN and a couple more, and what he's been telling them. So that stuff happens. To me, that's coaching. Now, in the fourth quarter, does your star get the ball more than a lot of the other people? Yes. Has he done enough? Nah, not really. I think he can be better. He can be better in his field goal percentages. He's at 43% right now, averaging 25, 10, and 6 in the series against Miami and Cleveland. Okay? They're winning by 20, winning by 24, 25, 13, 15, 7. They've won some games like that. But I still say this comes down to a guy who needs to coach better to get 5 guys on the same page and make sure you're running and find that open and free man. When they do it well, and they look sensational. And there are times they just play laps basketball. So is there a weakness? Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. There is a weakness with the Celtics. One, it's they need Porzingis back in the lineup, or they can't play and continue on. They're going to struggle, especially on the inside. They need Porzingis back. That's big. Number 2, they need to have that team-oriented offense. That half-court offense needs to be better tremendously. I totally agree. They have a weakness, and that's it.
All right. Well, I agree with you on the coaching there. Missoula has to step in, but the way the NBA is now, it's like the star player is kind of running the show. We saw what happened with LeBron James. That was an example, kind of an exaggerated example. But the way it is now, these star players, if Tatum wants to take the ball, he's going to take the ball, Now, Missoula should step in because there are just so many times. It's frustrating. We've texted each other back and forth. There's, 15 seconds left. And it's always Tatum most of the time. He just sits there, boom, 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 and takes a step back 3, clank, and misses a shot. And he does it at the end of like the second quarter, the third quarter. He does it all the time. He doesn't just do it at the end of the game. So I'm thinking, well, you just stop that nonsense already. And number 2, I think you make an interesting point here because it sounds like you're supporting my argument to some degree that Tatum, right? He's made some references, and some people have said, well, maybe he's the best player in the NBA, right?
No.
Well, if he's the best player in the NBA, and he's got Jaylen Brown, and he's got Derek White. Forget about Porzingis. He's got Holiday, who's won before. You got Pritchard coming off the bench. How come he can't beat Denver without Porzingis? You're saying he needs Porzingis, so therefore he's not really the best player in the league, then, right?
All right. So you're gonna put Tatum on Jokic? That ain't gonna happen.
No.
Right. So you would have to have Porzingis, or you need another big guy, and I don't think Cornette and Hauser are the 2 guys that can handle Jokic. You need a Porzingis to find a way to step in. Now, Jokic is better than Porzingis. I get it. But at the same time, Porzingis can help you on both sides of the ball. He's not going to be dominant enough to outdo Jokic, but enough that can slow him down in some ways. These other 2 guys in Horford, I don't think are going to be able to do that. Horford's too old now. He's trying to do his best. I get it. He steps out to the outside. He can make his shots and come up with a big game now and then, as he did the other night. So I get it, but it's not enough that's going to bring it over. It can if Porzingis is there, and then you generate that offense that we have seen, and they move the ball really well and get the job done. So it is going to be, to me, a weakness, as our questions ask, do the Celtics have weakness? Yes, need Porzingis in the lineup, and they need a better half-court offense. Transition offense, they're fine. Off the dribble, they're running. They're transition down the court. They're doing fine there. It's when they go half-court, they have to be better. Those are two things that are going to be very important down the stretch to win this.
All right, what is the Achilles heel that the Celtics may have? Do they have one? And what is it? What do you think? 774-218-3393. Again, it's a new number, so jot that one down at 774-218-3393. Mark Sylvia commenting from the great city of Chicago, Illinois. Thank you very much for looking in tonight. He says, more than one weakness. They are still deep enough to win, but it will not be easy. MVP of the team is Stevens for creating such a deep team. And by the way, Tatum doesn't have the old it factor.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to say is I like his comment on Stevens developing a deep team. I don't think, though, they can win without Porzingis.
Right.
They need a big man in the middle. You can rotate those other three guys, Horford, Cornette, and Hauser, and see what happens. I just don't think it would be enough against a dominating player like a Jokic, who I think Denver's going to get back to the finals and see how it goes from there. So I think they need that. He talks about Tatum doesn't have the it. Right now, probably not. Not seeing enough. We haven't had those kind of close games, averaging 25, 10, and 6. It's enough to get the job done and win games by double digits. But can it be down the stretch when they're going to need them? Not if they run the isolation, one-on-one thing. It comes down to coaching. To me, that they have to be better at finding a way to win at the end. Use this guy, use Brown, use Porzingis, use all five, develop a game plan, trust all five of them. I think any one of those guys can make the shot down the stretch. I think White can hit from the outside. Holiday can make it. So can Brown, so can Tatum, and so Porzingis. Trust them all, run a good offense, find the open man, and hit it at the end.
Let somebody else take the last shot, for God's sake.
I have no problem with that. No problem.
Mr. Hero has to take the ball every time, and 90% of the time it goes clank. How many times have I reached up to grab that ball and say, Chris, there's another clink?
They're letting them do it, and that's the problem. They're letting them do it. Coaching has to step in and say, this is what we're going to run. Until they do that, he's going to keep shooting.
All right. Well, let's say hello to Mark from Chicago. You're on Santos on Sports.
Gentlemen, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Hey, great to hear from you. What's going on?
I got to be honest with you. These guys are bad for my heart.
Hey, you knew that rain was coming, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, there's a lot of weaknesses, obviously.
A lot of weaknesses. Wow.
Listen, like I said in the comments, I don't think enough credit has been given to Stevens about building the team because, listen, Holiday, he got White last year for next to nothing, and then, of course, Porzingis. Now, I'm going to get to Tatum in a second, but this all starts with Mazzulla, and this guy can't coach. It's plain and simple. He doesn't know how to coach, and Chris is right in everything he's saying. Now, I'm sitting here as a fan. There's going to be proponents of Mazzulla going, hey, they won 64 games, guy. Look at what they've done the last couple of years. He is a good coach. He can coach within the system they got. But Tatum and this team, they need somebody who's going to coach them and push them and tell them what needs to do. Have a plan. And I just don't think Mazzulla is the guy that's getting the best out of each individual player, in my opinion. That's the weakness number one. The second weakness is the perceived best player on the team, to me. Listen, I was watching the game the other night, and I think the stat they said, it was the close game. It was 109, 102 or something. And they said, that was the only game this postseason decided by less than 10 points for the Celtics.
Correct.
And they don't have to try when they coast and they're winning these easy games against substandard teams. Mm-hmm. The problem I have is when they get to play, whether it's Denver or don't count out Dallas. Watch out for Dallas. Mm-hmm. But when they play one of those two teams in the finals and the games are grinded out close games, what are you going to do with a 2 or a 3-point game? And what is Missoula gonna draw up? I can go look at the existing players that are perceived to be best on their team, right? And I know in a close game, I'm pretty confident Murray for Denver can hit the shot. I'm pretty confident in Joker. I'm pretty confident that Luka and Kyrie are going to make the right play. And if you watch enough of the Knicks games in the postseason, it seems like every close game, big shot, Brunson makes it. And I'm concerned in a close game, Chris, you talked about Tatum's shooting percentage.
Yep.
I'm not worried about his shooting percentage.
Yep.
I'm worried about his shot selection. Because in a close game, if Tatum takes the ball to the basket, I don't think anybody can stop him. But I think he gets so happy, and it's a 2-3 point game, and I'm going to take a fadeaway or I'm going to take a step back 3. And you know what works best? You talked about Porzingis. The pick and roll between White and Porzingis.
Yep.
Perfect at the end of the game.
Listen.
Listen. Knows to do that, or he just rolls the ball out and says, "Jason, go get him."
Hey, listen. Even in the Cleveland series, how many times did Cleveland pick and roll on Horford for Mobley? Almost every other possession, and it worked every time. Every time. Even if Horford went over and now he had the smaller guard, that guard would shoot over him or go right by him. You got to do the same thing, and that's why Porzingis is important. Now, you made a key analysis, Mark. You said Murray, Joker, Luka, Irvin, they make the right plays. Plays. That's the key. They know how to make a play to get open to take that final shot. Celtics don't make plays. They do isolation. I don't want that. That's coaching. It has to change with Missoula first.
All right. Well, you said you were going to get to Tatum. What do you want to say about Tatum?
Well, again, just what I said.
Selection.
I just don't think he has a high basketball IQ. You know, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he's done it a few times this postseason. But think about, if I look back to the last several years, and I remember the one play, I don't remember what it was game 6 or 7 against Brooklyn a few years back, where they were down by 1, and he took a pass at the foul line, and he drove to the basket and made a basket at the buzzer, and then they won that series. I want to see more of that instead of the dribbling around, you know, and I don't know what Missoula's calling, Chris, but, you know, when they move the ball, Holiday makes an extra pass, White makes an extra pass. That's when they are at their best. And what I'm not sure, whether it's Tatum being a leader or Missoula drawing up the plays, I'm concerned against better teams in close games down the stretch that they can execute properly. And getting to your other question, Paul, honestly, when they need a basket, I feel it comes from Brown more often than it comes from Tatum when they really need a big hoop. That's just my opinion from what I see.
I think Brown is a little bit more clutch.
I think he's more clutch. I mean, I just think Tatum, listen, there might not be a more skilled player in the league than Tatum. That guy can do everything. I think it's up between the ears because he doesn't have, and again, he doesn't have the it factor. Do something like, I got to get a basket now, and then I dribble and I shoot a 30-footer.
Well, let me ask you this, because Chris thinks that the Celtics can't win without Porzingis, and it sounded like you agree with him. But if they're moving the ball around as they can with the talent that they have, as deep as they are, couldn't they win without Porzingis if they made the right shot selection?
Well, and I'm on the fence with this one because, yes, I know Chris is shaking his head.
Right.
Yes,
I don't think so.
I think they can win without him. It will be harder, and they will need perfect games from Tatum and Brown. Right. Now, if he is in, I'd say it's a slam dunk. But I got to tell you, you beat Miami. You beat Cleveland, whose best player was out 2 games. And honestly, you're going to play either Indiana. Now, I know Indiana's played us well, and they score a lot and they shoot a lot. So Indiana could be trouble. But realistically, we shouldn't have a problem with either New York or Indiana. It's going to be, if we play Dallas or we play Denver, it's going to be a series like we had not been prepared for. And when you see him come out, Cleveland's best player isn't in the game. And you're watching these games and you're going, why isn't this not a 20-point? Why are they not blowing this team out? They're a loaded team. So it'll be a challenge without Porzingis. But like I said to Chris in a text, like, I wouldn't play him next series. I would rest him until the finals.
All right. You follow the Bruins at all?
Oh, gosh, I'll tell you what. I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but watching these last couple of games now, and again, you guys tell me, but the last game seemed different than the previous games. But if you take away the aggressiveness in the last game, it's clear to me, not being a hockey guy, that the Panthers are just a more talented, a younger, fresher, deeper team, in my opinion. But like the announcers were saying last game, this is exactly the way the Bruins needed to come out. They needed to put they needed to put all the efforts in their zone. Before it seems like they were playing passive, and it was always in Florida's zone. Swayman was making all these saves. They got to turn that around and put it into their zone, which it seems like they did last game. It'd be hard to think they could win 3 in a row, but that's what Florida did last year, right? So I don't know.
It's
uphill
tough.
Battle, I think.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I actually have tickets to tomorrow night's game.
Well, hey, you won the last one.
Well, it's the one before last. Yeah, I did break the streak, though. That is true. I broke the streak.
It feels like, you guys tell me, but if you look at this team the last couple of years, it seems like something's missing. Like they don't have that toughness, or they,
right.
Like I'm waiting for them. The one guy on Florida, I don't know his name, but he's, he knocked the guy on his ass. Get physical, get tough with these guys. Like, well, instill your will, in this series. I haven't seen it yet.
What I'm finding interesting is last year, right, when the Bruins had that great season, the most points ever by an NHL team, they drew Florida in the first round, which I hated, right? And Florida beat them in 7 games, 7-game overtime, which is about as close as you can possibly get. And all we heard about was, the Bruins are chokers. Oh, they gagged. Oh, they choked. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And now a year later, everybody's like, Florida's a better team. Florida's a better team. Okay, there's some few players different, but, last year's series was pretty much a toss-up, and this year's series is pretty much a toss-up. That's it. Full stop.
Well, you say toss-up. They lost 2 games 6-2, right? I don't know if I'd say toss-up.
My point is that, I don't think the Bruins were gaggers last year. I just think that they drew a tough team in the first round, which happened to be Florida.
Yeah, that was a bad break last year. But listen, it's not inconceivable, but they got to start out. They got to start out from ahead. They can't fall behind early in these next two games.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much for your fantastic contribution as usual.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Now's a good time to call at 774-218-3393. Spear Christos making a comment from down on Cape Cod. New York hasn't been relevant since 1973, although their fans think they are. Hopefully New York will sharpen the Celtics up. The Celtics have always played to their competition.
Well, listen, Paul, I can say the same thing. I've done that before with some teams where a superstar might be out of the game. Other guys on that team step up their game, make some shots. Nothing against Cleveland. Look at what Morris did. Morris came to play the other night, helped out Mobley, try to keep the game tight. The guy stepped up his game, played more minutes, looked good. Sometimes you play to the level of your competition. You feel a little bit overconfident. Superstars out of the game. It happens. Been through it many times, during my softball career, and just beating teams like, 5-4, and we think we should win 20-0. But, it happens that way sometimes. Other teams step up. Sometimes your shot's just not going in, and other guys, they're making it. And you're sitting back, scratching your head, saying, how are they doing this without their superstar? But, in the long run, it's frustrating because I know what you're trying to see and trying to say, hey, we got so much depth, we should be blowing them out. They're still winning games by double digits. And hopefully by the time they get to their next series, either the Knicks or the Pacers, the competition gets even harder and the Celtics shine brighter. So it's going to take 5 guys to get the job done.
Spear makes another good point on the hockey side.
Yep.
We've talked about how people say that Florida is the better team, and they seem to be the way they carry the play. But look at the regular season. The Bruins owned them during the regular season, winning 5 straight. Now, I know what the argument's going to be, right? Different game in the regular season, right?
Yep.
Totally different game.
I mean, I get it. It gives you some confidence going in. Said, hey, we've handled those guys before. But you also look at what this series has been about. It's been about physicality. And you've seen it. I mean, McAvoy's coming out here with black eyes. This guy's out with shoulders. This guy's this, that. They're running into people. Bennett's doing this, cheap shotting. Things would happen in front, all that kind of stuff. It just turns into a different atmosphere when it comes playoff hockey. And Mark is right. You saw games 2, 3, and 4 where completely dominated the style of play and how more shots on goal. The puck and the ice always seemed tilted in favor of Florida. But the last game turned around, picked it up. The Bruins started to get more shots on goal. They started to attack a little bit more, dump the puck in, do some of their own forechecking and going after it, and good things started to happen. So they need it to continue or it's over.
Let's go to Nelson from Fall River. Good evening.
What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
I'm going to tell you what's going on.
Hey, hang on 1 second, okay? Just hang on 1 second. Go ahead. You're on.
New England just might see New York eliminate Boston teams not once but twice because the Rangers are in it, and the New York Knicks are very close to advancing. Oh, yes. There will be elimination on Boston's part.
This is the New York guy talking,
Yes. He'll have more confidence in the Rangers than he will the Knicks. I can tell you that. The Rangers are a very good team, and I had them probably winning the East at the beginning of the season. But the Knicks, they're new. They're trying to get back to playoff contention and get New York back into basketball because it's been a while for them. So they're really going to need more than just Brunson to get an upset series over Boston. But let them get through Indiana first and then see how it goes after that. So I'm just happy, as you, Nelson, New York, Boston. It's beautiful. It's great for the fans. It's great for the atmosphere. It's good for the NBA. It's nice to see 2 big cities duking it out. Looking forward to it if New York makes that run over Indiana.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It has been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But, I hope, for the Celtics, I do like Porzingis. I do like his style. My nickname for him is the Green Monster because he is like that. He's got the reach. He's got the shot. I mean, he can.
Well, me and Paul call him
one of a kind athlete.
What do we call him?
Me and Paul call him the fragile Green Monster. The fragile Green Monster.
It's like the House of Glass.
Yeah, the House of Glass. The fragile Green Monster. Listen. Nelson should know that. He played for the Knicks.
Hey, Mark Sylvia from Chicago has a message to you, Mr. New York. Tell Nelson the Giants still stink.
Say that to, listen, here's my response. Doesn't Eli have two Super Bowl rings?
Oh, here it comes.
Over Tom Brady? This is why he didn't want to roast Tom Brady for the 3rd time on Netflix. He didn't want to do it the 3rd time, so why do it?
That would have been the 3rd roast. Oh.
It would have been the 3rd one, exactly. So you know what? Listen, New Englander, take your seat. You're never going to see the Super Bowl ever again for a long time. Maybe just when Robert Kraft goes, I don't know. It'll be a long time before they ever see another Super Bowl.
I think you're right about that. It's going to be tough to get back to the Super Bowl with, the hole that they kind of dug themselves in. And there's a lot of talented teams around that they have to get through, too.
When Robert Kraft, he may sell the team one day, and then another owner is going to want to take over. It's going to be owner after owner after owner, and I'm still going to be saying, "Where's the Pats?"
Wow, that's some story. I didn't think the Jets are going to do this year.
Well, Aaron Rodgers,
exactly.
He needs to stop saying some crazy stuff on through the airwaves. Okay, this guy, he's losing me. He needs to stop with this stuff and just focus on football, because the last time he was on the field, he wasn't even there for that long.
Right.
You know, he needs to stay on the field, produce, and deliver. If not, New York should just can him, get him out the way, and move on. Because to me, it's becoming more drama, and New York, the Jets, they don't need that drama.
All
so
right.
who do you like better, Nelson? The Jets or the Giants?
You know, I'm just gonna go with both. You know, you want to know why? Because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give support to both. But like I said, to that New Englander, thank the heavens that you did not see Eli roast Brady for a third time.
All right, Nelson. Thank you very much for calling.
Have a good one.
Thanks, bud.
All right. 774-218-3393. So if Eli Manning had gone to the Tom Brady roast, he would have delivered the third roast of Tom Brady.
That's what he's trying to say.
Two in the Super Bowl, plus
listen, the Giants and the Jets.
I love it.
I mean, he's got two teams to root for. He's got a Daniel Jones. I talk about fragile, another Porzingis. He's got Aaron Rodgers, who Achilles, but at the same time, making some social media comments out there that are turning heads. So I don't know what's going on with New York right now. They need to gather themselves. They need to get back to some winning traditions out there in football, and hopefully they can start turning it around. But I think it's going to take them a while to get going too.
Well, speaking of fragile, Dak will be back this year, so we'll see what happens there.
That's correct.
774.
Right in the playoffs once again. Right back to the playoffs.
Playoffs. You know,
playoffs.
You got to win the big one, and once you get there, you know.
Only one team out of 32 can win the big one.
I know. 774-218-3393. This is Spear on Cape Cod. Good evening.
Yeah.
How are you?
This good. The Santos twins.
Turn your radio down.
I am. That's what I got to do. Hold on.
Well, they used to say that in the old days of open line. Turn the radio down.
Turn the radio down. So yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, talk to us.
I just wanted to start off by making a comment on the Bruins team number 5.
Yep.
I noticed the Panthers. They are so slick. They are so slick at not only drawing penalties, but they're also the cheap shots. It was the end of the second period. Pasta was in the corner. The buzzer went off. Time had expired. They were by this Bruins net, and number 5, Eckerd, come by and pushed him in the back. He would have fallen over if he didn't bump into his player. The ref was right there. Pasta turned around for retribution, and the ref stopped him. Now, the end of the game, when it was 6-on-5, and Reinhardt got the puck to the right of Swayman, and Brazil laid him out with about 5 or 6 seconds left. A clean hit. And that's what the Panthers are. They're cheap, they're greasy, and they know how to
get under your skin.
Penalty minutes on the other team. And that's what I want to say. But let me get to the Celtics for a second. The Celtics have owned the Knicks this year, and I don't think they lost a game to them, and I think every game they played was double-digit wins. Am I correct?
No, I think the Knicks did beat them once.
Are you sure?
I'm even going to look that up, but I'm almost pretty sure. But go ahead. I'm listening.
Do you think that the Celtics would have a more difficult time with the Knicks or Indiana, Spear?
I think Indiana.
That's what Chris says too. Chris agrees, and a lot of people.
I think Indiana.
Yeah, a lot of people think it would be the Knicks, the higher seed and all that, but people agree with you and Chris also that it might be Indiana after all. Why do you say Indiana?
I just think Indiana has better three-point shooters, and they were hitting more threes on them. And the two games that the Celtics lost in the playoffs, both teams went out of their mind hitting over 50% from threes.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard to beat that team. But
Spear, it was April 11th, 118-109 in Boston. Brunson had 39 and beat the Celtics by 9.
Okay.
So they have beaten them, but I still think the Celtics are a better team. Indiana, maybe not this year. They're a little young. They're still trying to get to know one another. Still a young team. I think Brunson and the Knicks will find a way to finish them off, and definitely will face the Knicks in the next round.
Definitely, I agree. But I don't think Brunson's going to be dropping 40 plus on the Celtics.
No,
they can give him a lot of attention.
I don't believe that. And tell me if you agree with this. The Celtics played just good enough to win. The last game, they didn't kill themselves on defense. They didn't work as hard as they could have. They didn't have to. They work as hard as they have to win the game. It's like the old Celtics when you used to watch with Russell and what have you. They'd be down 3-4 points going in third period. They'd be just playing to the level, and then down the fourth quarter, they'd step it up, and next thing you know, there's 13 points, 14 points. These Celtics are doing the same thing.
Yeah, but should they be doing that? Can they just flip the switch like that? What happens if they get to the finals and play Denver?
Yeah. No, they can't do it against Denver, but against Miami and against Cleveland, they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you guys totally. They will not win without Porzingis. They will not win. And it's been proven because I don't think that their bench is strong enough to hold off the other superstars. But anyways, listen, it was nice to talk to you guys. And, I really enjoyed the show today.
Yeah, before you go, Spear, what about the Bruins? Do they have any chance to win these last two, or do you think that it's too much of a tall order?
Well, we still don't know. We still don't know about Marchand.
Well, supposedly he might be back, I heard.
Yeah. Well, they're not a high shooting team. They're not a high shooting team. And they have to get out of their D zone. They don't own the neutral zone, and they don't have the rushes. If you notice the Panthers, they gain the blue line, and there's always a Panther going to the net. Bruins don't do that. They have to muck it up with them. They really have to muck it up. They have to win the battles in the corner. They're not going to outskate them. They got to muck them up, just like the Panthers are doing to the Bruins. They're beating them on the 50-50 pucks. So, but I think I have a chance. I don't think so, but, I always hold on hope for the Bruins.
All right, me too. I'm a diehard. All right, Spear, exactly. Thank you very much. Call again. We appreciate your comments.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
All right, Spear from the Cape.
I love it, Paul. I love it. Muck it up.
Muck it up.
I love the hockey lingo right there. Get in the corners and just grind it. Do a little shinny on the ice. We used to call it when we played when we were kids. Muck it up in the corner. I like it. Go at them hard. Paul, you always have a fighting chance when you have a goalie playing as well as Swayman.
I was just going to say that.
He gives you a chance to stay in the game. If that can happen and he comes up, maybe they can ride it and get it to a game 7 and then see what happens after that. So I don't see why not.
It's interesting because just a few weeks ago, there was this debate about alternating goalies, and, Swayman played that first game in the first round. They won the second game. Ullmark played pretty well in the second game. He did. Made some good saves and all that. And then Swayman came back in the third. But, there's a difference between playing good and playing very good and playing out of your mind fantastic. Yep. And I got to tell you, I had the good fortune of being at the game 7, the Pasternak game against Toronto. And as much fun as it was to see that goal by Pasternak in overtime, which it was a great moment and everything else, none of that is possible without Swayman. Swayman was unbelievable. That might have been the greatest game I've ever seen in person by a goalie. I mean, I'm standing there and I happen to be at the end where he was, and I'm watching all these saves and splits and rolling around and covering post to post and glove save and blocker saves and diving saves. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
Well,
I mean, this guy played out of his mind.
What game did Montgomery take Swayman out? Was that game 5 or game 6?
Let me see. It had to be, I think it was the first one that they got blown out.
Yeah, what was that, 4?
Yeah, it might have been game 4, but I remember we texted about this, and I thought to myself, you know what, just take him out now, give him a rest. You know what I mean? And I agreed.
Very interesting, though.
I found it interesting, but I agreed with the coach at that particular moment.
But what I liked is he pulled him. Swayman comes over to the bench. First person he sees, Jim Montgomery standing right there waiting for him, saying, "Don't you worry about this. I'm just trying to spark the team. You're still my man. You are our goalie, and we're going to come back in this series." And he went right after him, and Swayman nodded his head and said, "Thanks, coach." Went back to the dressing room. That to me is good coaching, because you don't let the guy sit back and take the brunt of giving up 5 or 6 goals where probably 5 of them weren't even his fault. So I like the way they did it. He came right back the next day, played great in the game after that too. So they win that series and move on. Smart play by Jim Montgomery. They're going to go with Swayman. They're going to keep it with him. Maybe he can shine for 2 games and do what Florida did to them last year and beat them in a game 7.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Like Spears said, I'm one of those diehards. I hold out hope no matter what the situation is. The Bruins could be down 3-0, and I'd still watch every game right till the end, hoping that maybe this is the greatest comeback of all time. And now that it's the 3-2, and I see Swayman there, and I see the post-game interviews, and I see the way he carries himself on the ice, he may have that it factor thing that we talk about. We have to wait and see how it goes. You know, there are certain players that elevate their game in the big moment. You know, they play okay in the regular season or they play okay at this moment, but when it comes to that clutch moment, they seem to come through. I'm hoping that this is what we have with Swayman. It feels like it so far. Again, it's too early to tell, but I like the fact that they're sticking with him. And if they are going to come back, if they are going to do it, he's going to have to be the guy to carry him.
Oh, easily. And he looks very calm out there. He's smiling. Even when he makes the play, he skates off to the side and his head's up. Yeah, it's just like he's like, man, I can't wait to get back into the net, drop that puck some more. So he's seeing it well. He looks confident, and hopefully the Bruins stand behind him and get more shots on goal and force Bobrovsky to maybe make a little nervous and make some rebounds and attack the net and get players and muck it up, like Spears said.
You know, we were joking a moment ago. One of the games I was at, the fans started chanting, "Shoot the puck, shoot the puck." And they did it when I was there. And then the next game I wasn't there. And the play-by-play announcer said, "Did they just say shoot the puck?" He was like surprised that the fans were telling the players to shoot the puck. Now, listen, you can throw the puck at the net and have no chance in some spots because it's too far away and the goalie can see the shot and everything else. That's true. You don't want to just be throwing the puck at the net without passing it. You saw that goal that the defenseman there, McAvoy, scored. It was a 3-pass goal. It's pass, you know, and they set up the good shot, the high percentage shot. Yes, that's all well and good. But there are many times where you can't set up that play. You just got the puck in the offensive zone. Just get it down to the slot. Just get the puck down to the net. And a lot of times good things will happen. They always say that. Get the puck to the net, good things will happen. You saw the Carlo goal, right? It was just a wrist shot from the blue line. And maybe the goaltender was screened or whatever. It just found that spot and it went through. By not shooting and getting outshot 3-1, those are hard numbers to overcome. You've got to get the shots on net. And the last game, they were much better at that.
Yeah, and, you know, and secondary scoring becomes very important as well. I understand Pastrnak and Marchand when he's playing and McAvoy. I get all that. But some of these other superstars, and even Chris DuPont is related to it, and he was taking a little bit of what I wanted in my head and got me before I could get this on. But they need other players. They need the Brusque. They need a Zacha. They need a Frederick. They need a Geeky. They need more, some of those guys finding way to get pucks into the net or attacking and get more shots on. Those guys have to make a difference and help out along the way, because you know what Pasta's going to do, and he's going to take a beating because he's been taking a beating. So is McAvoy. You've seen it. So is Marchand. Need some more guys to get going and help out along the way. So if they can get that, get some shots, get in those corners, get the big guys grinding in there, get Maroon, enough to not be cheap shots, just enough to say, hey, I'm here, and, we're going to get the job done. So hopefully they can.
Well, I like the comment here that Chris makes too, because he's pointing out 3 different things. Number one, get the puck to the net, shoot the puck more. Absolutely 100%. They did a much better job in that last game.
Yep.
He's talking about hitting, meaning play more physical, but don't, stay out of the penalty box. Chris talks about the penalties, but you got to play physical. You got to shoot. And by the way, how about winning faceoffs? That was an area where they really struggled. They seem to be a little bit better at that lately. You got to get possession of the puck in some of these big defensive zone faceoffs.
Well, that's an art. You have to work at it in practice, and how you have to turn your body or move the stick or, create something to find a winger or a defenseman. And sometimes you have a great night with it, and sometimes you don't. And, the battle continues, and obviously you want possession of the puck. So you try to get it in big situations when you need it to either clear it out of your zone or you want it to keep it in the zone. So, yeah, that always helps, but those are 3 keys to winning some games. Shoot the puck, take the body, and obviously win faceoffs.
And, of course, you need the goaltender, Swayman, just continuing to play at a much higher level. And Spear also points out that the Bruins are having some success shooting upstairs, up under the crossbar.
Yeah, they talked about that during intermission, and they actually brought the goalie. I'm trying to think of his name now. I'm drawing a blank. He was there with like PK Subban and all these guys, and he was talking about how to control the corners. And these guys are going to the corners and they're going down, and everything's going right over the shoulder instead of making the V in the split and staying upright. And the goalie was talking about it, and he's one of the most elite goalies of all time. So, but it's things like that. It's not only Bobrovsky, it's been some other guys doing it as well. So they've been noticing it around the league. But if that's the place to go, get shots and go and get them up there. And at the same time, even when Pastrnak scored, just over the pad. So when you're going down the butterfly, just over the pad, there's different ways to put the puck in the net. So hopefully the Bruins can find some cheapies and at the same time get some good ones when the chances are there for them.
I had to bring this up, but I think it's true, right? I love hockey. I enjoy watching hockey. Playoff hockey is like no other sport. But there is one thing that, kind of irks me a little bit. And mathematicians would call it random chance. People say luck, right? I mean, out of all the sports, that bounce of that puck and the puck going off a skate, the puck going off somebody's ass and into the net. Oh, that just drives me crazy. You can be out there and you can be playing like this great game. And then all of a sudden, boom, it goes off somebody's skating into the net and you're down 1-0. Changes the whole game. I mean, they were laying into Pastrnak because Pastrnak only has, 1 goal in the playoffs, I think, so far or whatever. Well, the other day, he got the puck right in front of the net. The puck came loose. They passed it down to him. He was right in front of the net. He deked the goalie out of his jock, put it between the 5-hole, and it rolled through the 5-hole. The puck ended up on its side, and it trickled right by the post through really no fault of Pastrnak other than it was bad luck. I mean, he deked the goalie out of his rear end and put it through his pads. It's just one of those things. Sometimes the puck goes over the crossbar. Sometimes it hits the crossbar. Sometimes it hits the part of the goalie. So, oh, what a great shoulder save. Yeah, the guy standing there like this and a boom, hit him in the shoulder. Oh, what happened, There's just so much random chance involved in these games. That's why you get into like a 1-1 game or a 2-2 game. After that, if you got 2 really good teams and they both have talent and they're both giving it everything they got, a lot of times it comes down to like, a flip of the coin, a bounce of the puck. That's it.
Yeah, well, teams try to eliminate that in playoff hockey and they shut the lanes down. So from the face-off dot to the face-off dot and then back up to the top of the circle in the middle there, and it makes that little triangle. That's where you want the puck the most to take your shots. So defenses try to control that area, force everything out wider, and that way it's easier for goalies to make the stops. But that's when big guys have to screen, and we've seen screens many a times, and even Swayman can sit there and can't see the puck and don't know where it is and things are going by him, or deflections, and that's why those things are very important. Block shots in those zones, in those angles, and at the same time, try to find a way to get shots on net, deflect off a skate, deflect off an arm, a shoulder, an ass, as you said. Whatever can get in, you do the best you can to get shots on net. So that's just part of the game that you hope the breaks go your way. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Same thing, the Bruss had one the other night, Paul, just like you said. Deke Nice went through the 5-hole, and Bobrovsky went down, and it just nipped the pad, and then it went right by the post. If it doesn't nip the pad, it goes in the corner, and it's a goal. So, those breaks just come and go sometimes, but that's playoff hockey. You shut the lanes down, and you force everything outside, and you stay away from the triangle.
Fans tend to be fickle. I'm driving home from the game, one of the games that they won, and it was like, oh yeah, the Bruins, Montgomery, wow, what a brilliant move that was, doing this and calling that timeout and doing this and that, and then they lose a game and it's like, they stink, they're a bunch of bums, they got to rip the whole thing up and start over again. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, come on, let's not get carried away. You know what I mean? Like, people tend to get either a little bit too high and a little bit too low, and it is what it is. Sometimes, a bounce of the puck, you talk about the puck trickling through the 5-hole and rolling wide. I mean, if that turned out to be like, a game winning or losing play, he would either be the biggest bum ever or it was the great play, just by that little piece of random chance.
Yeah, and the random chance for me is what I saw in 2, 3, and 4. In those games there, completely dominated by Florida. And it always looked like it was 6 guys on the ice, and Bruins only had 5. It's always like a Panther was somewhere, and they were just completely dominating the shots and dominating the play of the game. And it was surprising to see that the Bruins turned that around, obviously being on the cusp of being eliminated. And I know, you do whatever you can to try to stay in the hunt, but it was pretty impressive to see the Bruins come back in that last game and turn it around against Florida and really go after them, get more shots. And it looked like the play started to favor them an awful lot more, which was nice to see. They need that intensity and that kind of style again tomorrow night.
We talked about Swayman. Did you see that save that he made in the closing seconds of the last game?
Yeah.
The puck was right in front of the net, a little bit to one side, and Swayman likes to cover up the 5-hole by putting the paddle down, which, I always worry about that a little bit, but he kind of smothers the shot. And what a great save that was in that moment. I mean, it was only like 3 or 4 seconds left, and I was thinking, oh my God, they pulled the goalie with like 3 minutes left. And I'm thinking, wow, usually when you pull the goalie with 3 minutes left, most of the time it ends up an empty net goal. They couldn't get an empty net goal. They kept icing the puck, which I thought was a mistake. I'm like, oh, don't ice the puck. Here comes an offensive zone faceoff for Florida again. And they had multiple chances, but what a great stop there by Swayman when the chips were on the table.
Yeah, and go back to the other game before. Remember, the Bruins were up 2-1, and Swayman was playing great, even though Florida was dominating the game, dominating the play. And you got that ridiculous no call on Bennett that pushed Coyle. They score the goal, and then Barkov comes down, and they get the next one and win the game. So even though the Bruins weren't playing that well, they had a chance to steal that game. Breaks did not go their way, unfortunately, and they ended up losing that one. So that was a tough one as well. And you and me were texting on that one, Paul, and how tough that call really was, even though I thought Florida was really dominating the game at that time.
Okay, Ryan's in Rochester. Good evening.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, I'm glad you got in.
Yeah, sorry about the little last minute. I completely lost track of the time. That's my bad.
Oh, we're gonna have a big finish.
That's right.
Of course. I'll do my best. So in terms of weaknesses going forward, whether or not we even make it to the finals to begin with, I'd say the top of the list. I mean, it's got to be Missoula, like not just for the emphasis on the threes, the lack of adjustment when the threes aren't going down, but just the experience factor. I think very likely. Well, actually, even if whether Indiana or New York ends up taking that series, whoever it does, you're going to have a lot more experienced coaches going forward. Whether it be Rick Carlisle's won a championship before. Tom Thibodeau has been a really good coach for years now. So I think I give the coaches the edge there. Like talent-wise, it's not even close. But, the coach's experience there, I think that's going to be huge. Going into the finals, maybe. But and also, I'm pretty sure it got referenced earlier in the show. The big man depth got a bit exposed there. Without Porzingis in there, I think Chris mentioned it. Like Al Horford's been exposed badly trying to guard these guys early in the series. Like freaking, we talked about it. Evan Mobley's looking like freaking Wilt Chamberlain out there. Yep. So I think the big depth is down there. And I still just have like a little bit of a feeling that the choking DNA is still in there. Like I will say, like, the fact that we've closed both of these series in five games after, stupidly dropping game 2 at home, that's definitely a plus. But at the same time, I still feel like they've let these teams almost hang around just a little bit too much.
Ryan, do you think last year, with what we saw in the finals day, and they talked about Missoula, they went out and got Sam Cassell? Am I correct to say, I'm going to help this guy? We're going to work together, and I'm going to be able to simplify some things in the coaching department to get rid of things that were bad last year? I haven't seen any change to really say Missoula, oh, yeah, looks like a different coach this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's very small differences, I would say. And I think Sam Cassell is a really good addition to the staff, but with when you got Missoula still drilling in this this live and die by the 3 kind of philosophy, like it's hard to really tell what any of these guys do. Whether you talk about Sam Cassell or Charles Lee, who's going to get the Hornets job after this season. Yep. It's hard to tell like what these guys really do. Like maybe the defense has been better than previous years. Like at least last year, because I'd say we've been our best defensively under when Udoka was here because of his philosophy that he installed. So I'd say maybe defensively that we've gotten a bit better in that regards. Although we still like fallen asleep at times on that side. But I think having some of that experience has maybe helped a little bit. Maybe they feel a bit more gritty, I should say. Like they're not as gritty as the Knicks, obviously. Like Tom Thibodeau has to be one of the harder coaches in the league. Mm-hmm. But maybe a little bit more tough physically, but mentally when it comes to the players themselves, it's hard to change all that much, and it's hard to really get a good read on if Missoula's really changed at all because of his 3-point philosophy.
Yeah. I know. I totally agree with you there.
You mentioned, well, if the Celtics even get to the finals, it almost sounds like you think that Indiana or New York could actually be a threat to them.
I still think they can in some capacity. Like, we've seen them fall asleep. And that's just the thing. Like, these guys, like, they play down to the competition and they fall asleep at times. But Indiana's given them fits just because of, like, the fast pace that Rick Carlisle likes to play. Like, the up and down, constant up and down the floor. Tyrese Halliburton's been one of the best passers in all of basketball, and the shooting has been through the roof. Like, I remember the series before against Milwaukee. Like, Miles Turner had to have had one of his better shooting games of all time. But like, all those guys can shoot. Halliburton can shoot. Like, there's a whole bunch of shooting to go around that roster. Aaron Nesmith, who used to be a Celtic, he's been going off. Like that. Rick Carlisle's got a good thing going down there. And I've said this multiple times about the Knicks. Like, sure, they don't have Mitchell Robinson in there, and they're not, aside from Brunson, they don't. The talent there isn't really comparable. But they're one of the toughest teams in the league, in my opinion, just because of the philosophy that Tom Thibodeau has installed. And we've seen the Celtics crumble at times when if you get physical with them to a certain extent, they can crumble.
Who do you think would give them a tougher time, Indiana or New York?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I honestly think that maybe just because of the experience of well, I shouldn't say experience because of the coach, because Rick Carlisle, again, he won a championship. I would slightly lean New York just because of the physical defense that they can play.
All right. And before we let you go, what chance do the Bruins have of coming back and winning 3 in a row against Florida?
At most, I see them forcing a game 7. Like, but even if it gets to 7, I still see them. I see them losing in Florida. I still see them like it's a good win that they had a couple of nights ago, but it showed that they actually had some fight as opposed to just kind of laying down and dying. But at the same time, like I don't see how you can sustain that for 3 games. Like the amount of too many men on the ice penalties, it's ridiculous. I still think that McAvoy and the rest of the D-corps sorry, I lost the word, but they tend to crumble at times too. Although I will say McAvoy stepped up big time this past game, but I still think that D-corps can be had. They've been very inconsistent, and I think if Florida gets back to their to their physical forecheck, especially if they end up going back to their home ice. I think it's over in 7 at most.
Tough to win 3 games in a row, no matter who the opponent is. But the way Florida, they have that aggressive forecheck. I mean, they can be relentless at times, and it has been tough on the Bruins. As you said, a good last game win, but to do it 3 times in a row, that's going to be tough. But we'll see. We're diehards. We don't cave in until we have to. We watch right down to the end. Thanks a lot, Ryan, for calling.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
I always got to watch to the end. I remember one time years ago, a team called the Boston Red Sox. They were down 3 games to none. And I stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning, night after night. And I wouldn't go to bed. I stayed up like all of the Boston fans. And see, you never know. Like a great comeback could happen when you least expect it.
Well, and the other big one was, and you saw when they came back against the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
In that game there, was it 4-1?
A Maple Leaf miracle. Yeah, 4-1 with like 11 minutes left. Can you imagine that?
Left, yeah, and that was pretty exciting right there. So, any of that stuff can happen. We've seen it before. They come to your house and beat you. Maybe you can go to their house and beat them. So, we'll see if the Bruins can hang tough.
That's what makes sports so riveting, because you never know for sure. You can think something's going to happen. You can even put it at 90%, but you never know 100% anything. Well, all right, let's get a quick shout out here to Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River, Citywide Glass. Locations in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club in Lakeville, Massachusetts. And attorney John Seed, good friend of ours, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you can check his website out at johnseedlaw.com. All right, well, let's hope that the next time we speak that the Bruins have not been eliminated, that somehow they came back and won, because, the Celtics going into the next round, wouldn't it be great if the Bruins could join them too?
Well, it'd be nice for the city of Boston and the New Englanders to say, hey, we got some contention here to win either a Stanley Cup or an NBA championship. So just stay tuned and keep watching, and hopefully next week we'll know a lot more.
All right, and thank you to Mark from Chicago, Spear from down the Cape, Chris DuPont for typing in, Nelson from Fall River, and Ryan from Acushnet for contributing to our show. We really appreciate it. For my good friend, Mr. Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos for Santos on Sports. Go Bruins, and we'll talk to you again real soon.